Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is part 12B of our Let's Get Cooking series. Last time we did our recipe page and I was going to do this all as one video, but that took an hour. Tommy made some other UIs as well. So today we're going to continue with this and there may be a part C. We'll see how it goes. So let's get straight to it. Less of the chat. Okay, so today we're going to go and we're going to do our recipe book. So what I want you to do is open up your recipe book, blank visit that we made last time. And, in here, it's a little bit less than the last one. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a canvas panel. Drag that in. Then we're going to add a blur. Type in blur, background blur. Drop it on our canvas panel. We're going to highlight it. Hold down our, go to our anchors. Hold down our Control and Shift and click this one, and that will fill the whole screen. First thing, we're going to set something like 2. You can play around with that, make it more or less how you prefer. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add something called a widget switcher. And basically we're going to use this to change our pages. We're going to drop that on our canvas panel, highlight it, and let's rename it. Take off the 282. We'll just call it pages widget switcher. Good enough. Our anchors, we're going to set, hold down Control and Shift, we're going to set that to the middle. Our size in our X, we're going to set to 700. And our Y to 900. It's the same size as the pages we made last time. Okay, compile that. We're then going to, on top of that, we're going to get a border. Add that to our widget switcher. Highlight border, make sure there is no padding. Get rid of any padding, we don't want that. We're going to set the brush to our border as the same as our page, which is our recipe book 3. So here we've got our page, so it's all looking fairly familiar. What you can do to cheat a little bit if you want, you can go to your recipe page. You can select this horizontal box, copy that, just a header, and you can paste that. Oh, sorry, first of all we need to add a vertical box. First I'm jumping a step. We need to add a vertical box to our border. Make sure your vertical box is set to fill. And our vertical box has quite a bit of padding, so it's 100, 50, 50, and 50, like so. Now we can paste our recipes that we did before. Just make sure the horizontal box has got the right padding, which it does. Lovely job. Now here we want to add a text to our vertical box. And this text has a padding of 15 and 5 from the top, just to drop it down a tiny bit. You can leave it at auto. We can now go ahead and format our text the same as we did before. I'm trying to go a little bit quicker in this one. If I'm going too quick and you don't like it, please comment below. And we're going to name this content. Simple as that. That's all we're going to do for that. Now we're going to add another vertical box. To our, that's to our vertical box, I believe. Yes. So vertical, so we're adding another vertical box to our vertical box. Click on fill. We want to fill the whole screen. And we're going to make sure this is a variable. I'm going to call it content underscore VB for vertical box. And we're going to set up some paddings as well as normal, 15, 40, 40. Like so. Because we will be changing some other stuff later. Okay, so we've got that. And you can also go back to your page widget. Why not use what you've already got? We're going to highlight our horizontal box with our buttons in it. Copy that and paste that also in our main vertical box. And then that gives us our correct spacing. I believe though I did put a little bit more padding. 20, 50, 43. No, okay, this looks a little bit different. Maybe it's because it's zoomed. No. No, it looks the same. Okay, so that's about right anyway. So we go ahead and compile that. That's a layout done for that. Okay, nice and easy compared to the last one. So let's go ahead to our graph now. And we have a few functions to make. So okay, so we're going to add a new function. And we're going to call this set page to display, which does exactly as it says on the tin. It has one input. We'll make sure we add our input. And it's going to be next question mark. And it is a type Boolean. Okay, so first of all, we're going to do is drag off here, click our B, grab a branch. So obviously we've got two choices. And we're going to click a branch again. And we need to know what the input is. So we need to add ourselves a couple of variables. And we're going to call one is current widget index. And that's of type integer. And you can go ahead and duplicate that. And that's going to be, instead of current, it's going to be last. We can get rid of the underscore 0 at the end. Okay, so we have those two variables. Do we need any more? Yeah, we will do later, but we'll make them as we go. Okay, so first of all, I want you to drag in your current index and your last index, once we've just made. Get a current index, we're going to add one. The reason we're adding one is because we are, the contents page is 0. So if the current index is 0, we want to add 1 so that we're moving it on to the next index. Then I'm going to say, is this less than the last widget index. So if for whatever reason that's less than the last widget index, we don't want to be going back off an index that doesn't exist. Put that into there. Okay. So then we want to get our current index and we want to increment it. So double plus increment on true. On false, we don't want to do anything. Okay. Then we want to get our widget switcher and we want to set active widget index here, and the index is going to be the current widget index. Okay, so off here again, we're going to get another branch. From here, we're going to get our current widget index and say, is this greater than 0? If it is, then that's fine. If true, we're going to get our current widget index and we're going to decrement. So obviously, if it's greater than 0, we can go back to 0. If it's not greater than 0, we don't want to go any further. And then simply join that to there. So that deals with our next and previous pages. Next function. Okay. Make a new function. Create content. Okay. What do we have on here? Let me open this up. Okay, no inputs. We want to get our content 3B. What we want to do is we want to clear it. If we don't do this stage, you're just going to end up duplicating everything every time you refresh the page or go in and out of it. So we're going to clear and then we're going to rewrite it every time. So clear children. And then we're going to say get okay, hang on a minute. Yes. Okay, so we need to now go to our function library and add a new function. So go to our blueprints, I believe it's under core game, and our BPFL Crazy Cooking. We've got some here, so we're going to need to add a new function. We're going to call this get recipe data asset. Okay, and we're going to drag off here. I'm going to say get all data assets of class, and this is the one that we made ourselves in C++ a few episodes back when we made our kitchen manager. The asset we're going to choose is DA underscore recipe, because that's what we're wanting. Leave the folder path as default. From here, we're going to do a for each loop. We're going to cast to DA recipe because we want an exact reference to them, because we want to be able to get all the data from the individual ones. We don't use this very often, so it's only It's not going to affect you in game. It's not running on tick or anything. If you run it on tick, then yeah, I'd worry about it. But I'm not. What I want you to do is just from here promote this to a local variable and just call this ldata. Then delete it. And if you right click on that, change it to an array. Drag the array in. I'm just going to click add on the task. I'm going to add that. Simple. Then what I want you to do is get your local data assets. You can, little trick for you, you can drag it back onto the input. And I'm going to rename that to recipes. And it gives us our output. I'm going to output what we've added. So all we're doing is we're getting all of the assets that are in an array that we made in C++. We're going through them, we're casting to them to get the exact reference, adding them to a local array, and then we're feeding that array out at the end. Make sure you compile that. Go back to our recipe book. There we can use this. So we can try and hit off of here, get recipe, and there you see from our library, data assets. Drag off there, promote to a variable, recipes is absolutely fine. From here, we're going to for each loop. And then we are going to create a widget. And the widget is recipe line. And remember, we set them up with some variables, expose on spawn. So from here, you're going to get name. And the array index is index. Sorry, that cost is the way it happened to turn out. Then we're going to get our contents VB. We're going to add child. And right, what we need to do now, we need to go into our recipe line and do some little bit of work. Okay, so let's just see what I've done on here. Okay, we need to do a bit of changes. I told you a little bit wrong last time. I do apologize. I've just noticed. We don't need that. We can delete that. We can replace with child. Nope. Let's see. Click on the horizontal box. Replace with child. So we're just back to our text box. And then we're going to wrap with a button. And our button, we are going to quite simply go as draw as, make sure you highlight the button. None. Copy that style. We're hovered, pressed, enabled. If you don't like it, you can go ahead and change to whatever you want. That basically just gives us a text. Size box. We need to just change some overrides on the size box. So size box on this one, we do want a width override of 400. And text. Or is it our button? Let me double check. Okay, so on our button, we want some padding. 5, tab 5, tab 5. We want it bottom, fill. The text we want. Yes, the text we want to make sure is left justified, which it is, and filled here. No padding. That should give us something like. I don't know why we're a little bit off. Or maybe because, let me just double check. So it's through me, I thought we'd already done these. My apologies. Yeah. So if we go down here to make sure you highlight your button. Where you've got normal padding, just set that to 0. And that will bring everything in line. Okay, good job. Right. The last thing we need to do is click on our on click for our button. And we are going to add an event dispatcher. We'll call this online clicked. And that's going to have an input of index of type integer. Compile that. That is nearly all. While we're here, just as well fill in the rest of this while we're here. So we're going to get our recipe name text, and we're going to do this on event construct. We're going to set the text. And we're going to set it to name. And that should be everything in there. I'm just going to double check, make sure I'm not telling you lies. Apart from, we need to call our event dispatcher. So we drag our event dispatcher in, and on the on-click button, we're going to call it. Why have I got a different variable name? Okay. So this, instead of calling it quantity, we're going to rename that, call it index. And we add that. Okay, compile. And if we go back to our recipe book, we can refresh this node and we should see it changes to index. We can add the index there. And why we had to go back now was because of this. So we're going to add a couple of reroute nodes. We're going to say bind event to, look here, bind event to online click. That's the event dispatcher we made. No, never mind. Okay, so now we drag off the event here, because if we try and compile it now, it will fail. We need to drag off the event here, create an event. We're going to create a matching event. And we're going to call this on content line clicked. Now, if you're using earlier versions of 5.6, I believe it is, or could be 5.7, this will be made in, could well be made inside your recipe book. Sorry, that your create contents function down here somewhere. If it is, you try and compile it, it will fail because it shouldn't. You can't have an event made inside a function. You can call it, but you can't make it. So if that's the case, you just cut and paste it and put it on your event graph, and you should be good to go. If not, you can create, the other way around it is create this first. Make sure you have the index. It's got to be exactly the same as this. Then instead of create match an event, you can just link it to it. So there's different ways of doing it. If you have any problems, let me know. Okay, so we've made our contents. Now we're going to add our pages, okay? So we're going to go back to here. We're going to drag in our recipes, which we got from here. We're going to for each through those. Like so. We're going to create a widget. And the widget is going to be our page. You can see it's asking for a data asset and an index. Data asset, array index, okay. Now I want you again, a bit like we did earlier, promote this to a variable, not a local, but to an actual variable. And call it recipe pages. And go ahead and delete it. Right click on it in your control panel here and it will change it to an array. Drag in an array and we're going to add that page. And I'm not sure whether I have cleared that. I haven't. So probably a good idea for here. Drag in your recipe pages. Let's clear it just to be on the safe side. If it doesn't work, we can always change it back. It should be better to clear it because we don't want pages we don't actually have. And if you're keeping your recipe book live, it could be adding more pages than what, so you're just going to end up duplicating, triplicating things. Make sure you add that. Again, reroute node. And we're going to get our widget switcher. There's widget switcher. And we're going to add child. And the content is going to be a page. So basically we're adding more pages to our widget switcher, which starts at 0, and then we'll progress on from there. And then we want to bind event on next. Now remember these event dispatches we made last time. Bind event on previous. We're going to add events in just a moment. And bind event on, call it on pinned checked. Like so. And we can go ahead and make these up. So let's get this, create an event. I'm just going to say create matching event, and we're going to call this one on next clicked. And the same here. create an event, create matching event on previous clicked. And the last one, create an event, matching event, and we're going to call this one recipe pinned. Okay, so we have all our events made. Back to our content. That's that for that line. Now what we want to do is we want to know what our last widget index is going to be. Okay, which is at the end of the line. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this out. We're going to set it. So we're going to get another copy of our recipes and need a fresh copy because if we took it off of there, it'll be empty because well, it may not be empty, but it may not be so accurate. Sorry, I'm misreading my code. And we're going to get the length of that. Okay. And we're going to add 1 to it. Okay. And that should do it for the create content. So if there's any problems with it, we can go back and look. Right, so that's that function done. Now, when we click our pinned recipe, we don't want to be having more than one recipe pinned. So we want to be able to uncheck the rest. And so we're going to make a function to do that. We're going to add a new function. We're going to call it toggle other recipes off. Something like that. And that has one input. And I'll type integer. And it goes, and it's selected recipe index. Like so. So we're going to get our recipe pages. Make sure you get the pages, not the recipe ones. Going to for each through it. We're going to drag out the array element and get the index. We're going to get our selected recipe index from here. And we're going to say, is it not equal? We don't care whether it's equal. We're looking for the other ones. So it's not equal. If it's not equal to this, the branch, we are going to then drag out of here, get some reroute nodes, and we're going to say pinned. What did we call it? Checkbox 19. Okay, we didn't really give it a decent name. That's fine. We can change that later. We're going to get that, and we're going to just say set checked date. And you want to get the widget function, not the variable. From true, we're going to set them to unchecked. Basically, if you've got one checked and you decide to change your mind and you want to check another one, it will go through this and uncheck all the previously selected ones. Okay. And this one, one more function, and this is going to be clear all checked recipes. So basically, when we've finished a recipe, we want to just clear them all. This is quite simple. We're going to get our recipe pages again, very similar to the last one, to be honest with you. 4 each through them. Again, you could combine them into two into one, but let's keep it simple. And we're going to get our checkbox, and we're going to get check state. Okay. And we're going to say, is this equal? Make sure you choose equal enum to checked. If this is true, and this we won't know because we're going to need them. The branch, connect it to the loop body. If it's true, set state. Again, make sure you choose a function, and we're going to put that to uncheck. So it's fairly similar to the last one, but we're just doing a slightly different check here. Okay, great. That's all the functions done. You can go ahead and close them. And let's work on our event graph. So, call up our event graph and event construct. Pre-construct we're not using, tick we're not using, so we get rid of those two. And we're just going to use our create content from construct. Nice and easy. So on contents line check, clicked, this one here. Okay. We're going to set our current widget index. We're going to get a page widget switcher. And we're going to say set active widget index. So that, nice and simple. Okay, on next click, we're going to get our function set page to display, and we're going to click check that. And on previous click, do the same thing, but uncheck that. Okay. Okay, now the only thing that we do have, well, we've got a couple of things we have to do, but one thing we do have to remember to do, because it's a different page, go to our designer, go to our previous button, click the on click, and also do the same for our next button, which we set the button, so you won't see it in the list. And what we're going to do is we're going to run these two events. So on previous, clicked, on next. Okay, so quite simply we're going to do those. Okay. The recipe pinned, we can do later. We'll do that later. So for now, I believe that's all that we need to do in here. I just want to now go through and double check that we've got everything correct. So let's start with the ingredients line. Designer, that's correct. We need to add a little bit of code. So we'll do that on event pre-construct, so we can delete those two. Get recipe name text. Get quantity text. Text. You can copy and paste because we need to do it 2 times. Make sure you join up the target. Name is name, nice and simple. Quantity, quantity, back onto there, that's fine. And integrity, that's fine. Okay, good. That is all we do in that one, because they're just visuals. Next one I want to check is the instruction line, and I think it's pretty well identical. Almost. So instruction line. Let's go to our designer, make sure we've nothing different. Right, we do have something a little bit different. Basically, you need to switch these around. Oh, switch these around. So you want the numbers first. Let me zoom in. You want the numbers first, like so. And what have I done here? Let me just double check. So just for, I've done 0 point. And I'll do a space point. I've also, I think I've got some padding on. Yes, I've got some padding on this one just to space it out a little bit. Left padding. So we just need to change the layout of that a little bit. In our graph, constructing event tick we don't need. So we get our name text, get our quantity text, pretty much like we did last time. Set text. Copy and paste that. Make sure you take your target. Name to name. Now the quantity we're going to do a little bit different. Okay. So quantity, we're going to get our quantity. We're going to say to text. We get this. Sorry, not that one. To text integer. That's what we want. From here, we're going to drag off and say format text. Okay, we get this little node here. In here, we're going to add a curly bracket. I'm going to type in text, end curly bracket, space, full stop, or period if you're from America. And we're going to join that into here. So what that does is anything inside the curly brackets with this word text, it adds that, and then it adds whatever's after. So you can have many of these if you want to format your text to add numbers or words inside a block of text dynamically. That's all we're doing for that one. So again, we can now just take the next one. We've done pinned, I'm not going to worry about. Recipe line, I believe we did. Yes, we did. Okay. Now all we need to do is implement it into the game. So let's go to our kitchen manager, because I think it's a good place for this to be. Double check what I did in my other project. So in our blueprints, core blueprints, kitchen manager, I do okay, that's what I did. Right. So all I want to do is go to the begin play. This makes stage from recipe. Delete that. We don't need that now. You can delete that. Begin over that. I want you to find your current recipe. I'm going to set that to nothing, to null. We'll start from nice and empty. If later on we're doing a save game and you were partway through a recipe and you saved the game, then we can set this on loading the game, which maybe we'll get into load and saves later on. We're going to create a widget. Okay. And we're going to get our recipe book. Like so. We're going to promote this to a variable. We're going to call it recipe book ref. And that's what we're going to do on our event begin play. I'm going to get rid of this tick here I had before. I don't think we need that. Okay, so we're going to make a new event. Which we need to add to our interface library. So go to our interfaces, go to our kitchen manager, and I'm going to find what I actually did. Okay, so we've got our set stage complete, give current stage, start new order, give ingredients from current stage. Okay, let's work on that. So we're going to add another function. Yep, okay, so we're going to add another couple of functions actually. So let's go ahead and add a function. We're going to call this toggle recipe. It has no inputs or outputs. And we're going to do another one. And this is going to be, so what I'm going to do is put these in a category. So I'm going to put this in the category of UI. And put this in a category of utils. And go ahead and just stick these in utils, just so it makes life a little bit easier when we're inside our kitchen manager trying to find a particular function. Okay, so we're going to add another function, and this is called set pinned lines array, and that will be used later on. It won't be used today, I don't think, but that has an input. I'm just going to call it array, and it's of pinned recipe line, and we need to make sure it's an array. Make sure you compile. We're going to add that into our UI, and we're going to have another one, clear selected recipe in book, and that has no inputs or outputs. Okay. Now, we'll make sure we put that into our UI. While we're here, we'll add another function, and this is clear current order. That's under utils. And that has no inputs or outputs. Then we have another one. Give recipe. We may not be using these today, but it's over here just as well make them. Now as an output, of recipe, and that's a single, not a multiple, and that's DA underscore recipe. Okay, and we'll make this because if not, we'll forget for next time or another time. So we're going to say set chef's message on stage complete. And again, that has no inputs or outputs. Okay, so we can go ahead and compile that. Back to our kitchen manager. And we can go now to our interfaces, the UI. I didn't put that one in a correct category, that's why it's sticking out on its own. Go to UI, and toggle recipe is what we're going to be working on after all this stays. So first of all, we want to know whether our recipe book is valid. Okay. We'll do validate again. It should always be, because we're starting at begin play. Providing you put this in the kitchen manager in the world. If you hadn't, then you would be getting problems with a lot of other things before here. So as long as it's valid, that's all we care about. So we're going to say is in viewport. I'm just going to do a not boolean just to make it easier. We'll do a branch off the valid. Okay. So we're going to click this. In here, we're going to say add to viewport. Then we're going to get player controller. Set show mouse cursor. Pretty well what you do with any imagery system or whatever UI. You want to say yes to that. We want to see our cursor. And from here, game mode, We want game and UI so that it can still reference the key. And widget in focus is going to be the recipe. On false, we're going to remove from parent. And we're going to get these, copy and paste them, and we're going to say false, and we're going to say game mode. Okay. Neaten that up a little bit. So we can now toggle our inventory. Okay, this one's gone in nearly an hour. So what we're going to do is quickly go into our character and add the functionality so we can see our inventory coming on and off. We may then next time we will probably do some adjustments to our recipe data assets, and we'll get the functionality working along with what we've already done. So there will be a part C. Okay, so let's quickly open up our player character, but before we do that, I just want to check on our import. We did make a toggle recipe. Okay, our input. So let's go back to our blueprints, our character, our chef, and in the event graph, here will do. We can just type in IA underscore toggle recipe book. Okay. Open it up because we want to use the started. Let me just double check quickly how I did it in my other one just to be sure. Okay, very simple. So we get our kitchen manager. And we call toggle recipe message. Put it on the started. Collapse that if you like. And that's all we need to do on there. Okay, so let's quickly see whether we get anything. So if I open that up, click on my tab, that's the key I chose, and here we have our content, bread jam. Okay, previous, I didn't put next. Okay, we've got a little bit of a problem here. We haven't put the word wrapping in. That's no big deal. We can sort that. If I click on one of these, okay, a little bit mixed up. Okay, so take that to that. Okay, so we've got a couple of little errors, which I will go ahead and sort. That should be doing the same as that, but it isn't. That is wrong. Bottom is working correctly. Okay, so we need a little bit of checking to do. Let's go ahead and quickly look at that. So first of all, I'm not happy with that changing grey. It's awful. And also we want to get rid of that. So on our recipe page, on our description text block, make sure you highlight that. Go down and do word wrapping, auto wrap text. Okay, that will stop that. And now if we double check that, click on tab, where we see that looks nice. Okay, and now scroll box looks good. So, okay, We've got no icon because I haven't set the icons in the data assets, but we will do that. Okay, so that part's working. The other problem we had was on a couple of things I didn't like was on our recipe line button. Instead of rounded box, so let's put that as none. Pressed also as none. Okay, that should stop those grey bits. We can quickly double check that. Yeah, we just get that. Okay, okay. So why is this not doing that? So that will be on our recipe book. First of all, I didn't notice on our recipe book in our designer, we've got 3 previous, this should be next. Okay. Let's go to its buttons, event, next, previous, okay. On previous click, page of display, next click, previous click. Okay, they were working fine, I believe. Let's just double check that. So next will be bread and jam, and next toast and butter, previous bread and jam, and then butter. Okay, so those are working fine. So on the line clicked, we do have a problem with. Online click set active with index. I'm just looking in the page. Give me one moment, I'm going to sort that out and come back straight to you. Okay, I've worked it out. Silly me, my mistake. From here, in the array index, so this is in our create contents, the first for each loop from the array index, we want to do a plus 1. We want to add 1. Basically, we're just calling the same page again, that's why it wasn't changing. And hopefully now that works correctly. Bread and jam, previous back to there. We've still got that previous on our page, I need to change that. Okay, no problem. Let's go ahead and do that. So on our page, change the wording on that to next. The visual, the tab, next, go through them nicely as one would expect. That also the next works, the previous works. Next no more because there isn't any more at the moment. We've only got the 2 previous. Works lovely. Okay, so we're going to call it there today. Sorry it's a bit longer again, but next one we will then be adding the functionality. So when we actually check the pinned recipe checkbox, it is what will set the correct recipe in our kitchen manager and then allow you to go ahead and make the recipe. Thank you for watching. As always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Any questions, comment in my comment section or join my Discord. Always willing to help. If you like my content, don't forget you can always join my Patreon or buy me a coffee. Thank you. Bye.